Well, here we are again. It's another Sunday at Pile of Mopars. I am going to do a bit of work on Monaco. I'm going to give it one last shot at trying to get this thing to run. It's got next to no compression, so we figure the rings are all jammed up just from sitting. It's been sitting for decades or who knows. So anyway, I've got a couple replacement carburetors I could try because this is solid. So we'll just pop that off, switch it out. We'll get a new fuel filter on there. I'm just going to run it out of a gas can. That'll bypass any fuel tank issues because I'm sure there's fuel tank issues. I've got the battery all charged up, ready for some cranking. And I've got to pop these off and put new gaskets on. They're kind of destroyed. So if I got it running, it's just going to spew oil. But we'll get busy here and see what we can do. First things first, we'll get this up in the air and change oil and filter. And so we'll get that slop out of there. And I checked it before. It didn't look like there was any moisture in there. See if you can see. It does look like it's just oil. You know, black as it is, but it doesn't look like there's any water in there, so we'll go with that. Okay, it's up in the air. I bought this jack, it's a tranny jack, prior to having my hoist. So I don't use it as much for that anymore, but it's a good jack. It's got a big platform, but also you put this pin in and it becomes a jack stand all-in-one. So it's kind of cool. Otherwise you got jack stand here, jack stand there, and stuff kind of gets in your way. So we'll get this oil out here in this oil filter. Oh no, 7/8, okay. So I got that and a little hammer to persuade it, because it wasn't even that bad. I was planning for the worst. Now, I mean, it didn't look like it on the dipstick or anything like that, but let's see if any water comes up first, because it'll be on the bottom because the oil floats. Like I said, the dipstick didn't indicate that, so we'll see what it's gonna do here. No, it's straight oil. Okay, so it's straight oil coming out. That's good. And then a little bit of sludge on the bottom. Can't tell if that's magnetic on this. It kind of feels like it on this drain plug here. Looks original. It's original style. It's just got a bit of sludge buildup on it, but no chunks of anything, so it's pretty much what you'd expect. And the oil smells like, kind of smells like gasoline. I'll get a bit of an angle here. Hopefully it's not gonna overflow before it runs out of juice. It actually doesn't look that bad. I mean, it's dark for sure, but it's not like sludge. So we'll get some fresh stuff in there and we'll switch that filter, and hopefully we can get some oil coming up to those rockers. Otherwise I might have to pull the distributor and prime it with a drill, prime the oil pump. But I'm trying to be efficient / lazy and do it the easy way. And I'm just laying out here looking at this exhaust. Of course, it's minuscule exhaust because it's a small block. But this front Y pipe, it almost looks like it's the factory pipe. And the reason I say that is right by the transmission cross member, the pipe flattens out just for extra ground clearance, etc. And it has that, which is what the factory did. They flattened it out right around there. And it goes back to a single muffler. So the exhaust on this, although I haven't really looked at the muffler itself, but the pipes all sure look good. They're not all dented or banged up and not rusty at all, so it'll probably be okay that way. So we'll get this here off, or on, I mean, this plug. Oil's all out, and we'll do that oil filter next. You ever have those oil filters so tight they just crush? They just crush with the wrench just because they don't want to turns. I'm gonna have to fight with this. Maybe even just jam a hole and a screwdriver through it or something, but it should be a good time. So this is what it's come to. That oil wrench has just mangled it. And so I'm going to try, just hammer this through. Let's see if that's going to help me at all. It might just tear the metal. So we might just have to, totally dismantle this oil filter to get it off. But I will win. Well, the screwdriver did the trick. That little bugger's coming out. But not without some damage. Nothing like mangling a couple of good filter wrenches. But easy come, easy go, I guess. Oil drain plug is back in the pan. Brand new oil filter put on. Now we'll swap these out with some new gaskets. And I'll probably put a bit of oil on the rockers just to give them a bit of a chance before the engine oils it up. And then we'll get this carburetor off and top up the antifreeze. Let's get busy. You guys probably remember the crusty mess from the first time I opened this up. So I'm just gonna give it a quick scrape around here. There's lots of little bits here. I'll vacuum up, keep them out of the oil pan. And then I'll see if I can dig up some new gaskets. One thing I like to do, I'm not sure if you can see very well on here, but a lot of these get pushed up when you tighten them. They distort. So I like to take a ball peen with the vise and just tap them a bit to get them back to where they're supposed to be. And no doubt they'll distort again, but just makes them flat. So I did find some new gaskets laying around, just some stock type cork jobs, but they'll do the trick. And then I'll use some of this new oil and just dump it over here so we can get a bit of a lube going on, or a pre-lube anyway. I know this is not gonna get inside the shafts between the rockers and the shaft, but it'll maybe help some of it. Reduce some friction or something. So we'll go with that and we'll seal it up. Both valve covers are on, new gaskets. Though the gaskets were new in the package, it was an old package. Looks like they might have got wet or something. So the gaskets kind of shrunk, so I'm not sure how well they're going to work. I thought I would use them up anyway, and we'll see. And what it was is on both corners here, opposite the bolt, the gasket is moved in just because it's shrunk. So we'll see if it's going to, leak oil everywhere and we'll have to change them again or what. And I just unbolted the crusty carburetor, and I got to try and get this gasket off, although it looks like it might be fairly easy. And here's the carburetor. I dumped it upside down and it was just full of powder and stuff. And you can see the bottom here is pretty crusty, but at least the butterflies are closed. and I vacuumed it out there, so hopefully we didn't get too much in the engine, and maybe this is just condensation type corrosion from sitting for so long, but time will tell. Well, I think we're getting to that time to try and fire it up. I've got hooked up to the gas can down to the fuel pump. I hooked up the line, I found a filter, hooked it up to a nicer carburetor. I just switched the cap and wires. The other ones are pretty crusty. Switched them over, checked the firing order to make sure it was correct. Filled it with oil, topped up the antifreeze. Of course, I charged the battery before. And I'm gonna crank it here and check spark with this and see if we've got anything. Oh, I also took a small piece of sandpaper to the point. So first we'll check for spark, and then we'll add fuel and see if we're gonna get anywhere. Okay, the key is to the run position. We got this down here. You're not going to be able to see that on camera. It's pretty hard even for me to see, but let's give it a crank and see what happens here. No spark. Try a different spot here. There's no spark. I wonder if it's that distributor in the points or the coil. Let's go back to the coil here. Look for spark out of that first. That could be bad just by itself. I don't want to hang on to those wires though, or this wire. Don't need curly hair that bad. Okay, I'll put it right to there and see if that's going to do anything. Okay, so there's no spark coming out of the coil. So check the connections and switch out the coil and see what happens. Well, it's a new day. It's Tuesday. Ran out of time the other day and I didn't get time yesterday to work on it. Anyway, a little update to where we are. I can't remember exactly where we left off, but I put another fuel pump in. The one that was in there just wasn't pumping the fuel. So we changed that, and I've got it jacked up. I'm going to put a starter in it. The starter that's in it now is really noisy and turns the engine over quite slow. So I'm going to put a mini starter in it. It's going to crank it over real fast because I think I'm going to need the speed with the low compression to make anything work here. So I'll get busy with that and see where it gets us. I'm sure a lot of you guys know this, but you know, this here is a mini starter. They used to be, I'm not sure, was it Bosch or who? This particular one is made in China for AC Delco. But anyway, what I'm getting at is, rather than go and buy a mini starter from, you know, one of the big stores, any, what would it be, late 80s, early 90s, Dodge trucks and, you know, Dakotas, Durangos and stuff came with these starters. So if you do find one of those wrecked for parts or in a junkyard or something, I always grab these when I see that they're, you know, fairly new. And I probably got 10 of them in stock. But anyway, cheap way to get a mini starter. Just look for the stock application. Well, the starter's in. And sort of seated in there. Room to spare. Of course, that's why they call it a mini starter. Leaves you for a lot more clearance than, although I didn't have any clearance issues. This is a factory head pipe on here. But I'm looking for the higher cranking speed just to overcome that low compression. Hopefully that idea works. Okay, let's try this out. Let's see if this thing's gonna crank. Well, it cranks good. Still sounds terrible. I wonder if there's something with the ring gear or something, but anyway, it's what we got. Okay, it's getting dark. I was having a problem getting spark. I switched out the coil. Didn't make any difference. I took out the condenser thinking it might be grounding. And I did get some spark off the coil wire. And then, but I was getting nothing at the plug. And I switched out the rotor thinking it might not be contacting on top there on the center. And then I was getting a bit of spark there. So, it seems to me I'm getting spark now. I just stuck some starting fluid down there, but the battery's getting low. I'll let you hear what it sounds like. Anyway, it doesn't sound good. Battery's getting weak, and our power just went out, so I can't even boost it. So we'll have to probably leave that for the moment. But yeah, even that new starter I put in sounds sickly, almost like the engagement into the flywheel's a little off or something. It doesn't sound good, but we'll try and get a fresh charge on this battery and try it again. This is day 4, 5, or 6, or I don't even know. We've been trying to get this thing to start. This is a filter that came out, and we were just checking for any medical particles, because we're having a hard time cranking this over, and we're kind of thinking maybe some bearings are spun and it's just making it hard to turn over, because that starter is really working. Anyway, we didn't see any debris in the filter, so we're going to give it one last kick at the can here. I'm going to film it so you guys can hear what it sounds like, but it doesn't sound good. Okay, ready to go? Yep. Just so close to kicking. You know, it's firing on a few cylinders, but we get such weak compression, so that's not helping. But it just seems like there's so much resistance. We thought it was plugs, or flooded, I mean. So we took all the plugs out, blew it out, cleaned up the plugs, and cranked it over with the plugs out, and it just cranks like there's no tomorrow. But once we get this, the plugs and everything back in, it's really erratic. But I guess that's probably the difference in compression, different cylinders or whatever, possibly. But anyway, we've been fighting at it for probably a couple hours here now, and it's fighting us hard. So this could be the end of this engine. My buddy Jerry's here, but he doesn't want to speak on camera, I guess. He's being real quiet. You don't want to give up. So what are your thoughts overall as to where we would go next?
Wow, it's so close to far in here. I would keep trying to try one more time.
Okay, well maybe that wasn't the last time. That's the second last time. So we're going to let it cool for a second and we'll give it another shot. Well, we got a breaker bar on the crank bolt. We just want to see how tight it is to turn over, and we're definitely finding tight spots. It gets easy and then it tightens right up. So we're thinking that maybe some bearings are piled up inside, you know, on the crank or rod or whatever. I mean, the original story was they seized up the engine, but we don't know if it was this engine or the original, which was supposed to be a 318, this being a 273. So yeah, see, he's pulling on the bar and it's tightening right up again. So I mean, we're really working this starter hard. It's almost like it's seized right solid, eh?
Yeah, it's coming up. Like there's maybe a whole bunch of rust or
Oh, like in cylinders.
rust in there, or maybe a bunch of mouse poop, or I mean, well, we had the air in there and stuff. Shit would have blown out if there was a lot of shit. But.
That's true too. Yeah, we blew out each cylinder with the air hose. Okay, fire in the hole again. Oh, it slipped off. Ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay, well I guess this is the end of this video. My camera ran out of storage, so I have to shoot the outro in the house. But we got one last ditch effort that we're going to try. But we do think that maybe there's some piled up or seized bearings in there. It's really given a lot of resistance. It's not easy to turn over with the breaker bar. So the one last thing my buddy Jerry suggested is I'm going to pull the distributor out. I'm going to prime it with a priming rod and then turn the engine over and prime it some more. And then we're going to just feel the resistance on the breaker bar, if that made any difference. But it's quite likely the engine is toast. This video has been at least 7 or 8 days in the making, just because I'm trying to definitively get an answer. You know, either it runs or it don't, but we keep running out of time, and then I got to, work during the day and all that. So I think it's going to post the video as it is now, and the last thing we're going to try is the priming thing, but we'll maybe tag that on with another video. We got a little bit of a trip plan for Saturday. This is Thursday today. There's a big swap meet about an hour and a half from us, so we're going to grab my old truck and put a day permit on it for insurance and cruise down with that. So you'll be seeing that one maybe by Sunday. But that's it for this one. Sorry to keep stringing you along. It's not my intent, but here we are 8-9 days and I haven't put a video up just because I've been working on this the whole time. So we'll see you next time.